Hi, in this video series we're going to talk about Adobe Photoshop for newbies. You'll learn how to design simple mini sites using Adobe Photoshop. So we'll go through and we'll talk about the different features of Adobe Photoshop. Adobe Photoshop is a very complex tool, but for this video series we're going to keep it simple just to show you the tools that you need to use, what you need to have, like Adobe Photoshop for example, and we're going to be using a action script called Cover Action Pro so that you get mini sites that have superb resolution, which is very important when you're dealing with internet business, because unfortunately people do judge a book by its cover. And because of that, by using these tools that we're going to show you in just a minute, you'll have that advantage. So besides understanding Adobe Photoshop features, I'll be showing you the importance of royalty-free images and how to find them. I'll also show you how to use the specific tools like the lasso tool, crop tool, how to work with layers, how to balance your designs, which is very important. Once you understand that, then we'll go on to creating the header, background, footer, ebook, DVD cover, and other types of e-covers. So in this specific video, I'd like to show you the different features of Adobe Photoshop. And before we get started, I want to show you what kind of tools we're going to be using. Of course, Adobe Photoshop, as you can see here, I've got a sample header up. And we'll also be using Cover Action Pro. As you can see here, you can create really good looking e-covers, different designs. The only requirements is that you must have Photoshop either 7, CS, CS2, or CS3. And Photoshop 7 goes way back, so if you have an old version of Photoshop, that's fine, as long as it fits these requirements here. Now you may find that you might have to invest a little more than other e-cover softwares out there, but I will say this. Adobe Photoshop, comparably to other graphic programs, is probably one of the best programs out there, simply because it can do so much. And if you're looking for an investment to invest in as far as graphic wise, to make unlimited mini sites, e-covers, things like that, you'll definitely want to look into coveractionpro.com. And here are the different e-covers that you can design. You can do ebooks, DVDs, e-zines, paperback, books, business cards, and as you can see, a lot more. And as you can see, that this is a high definition, which is very important. The higher the resolution, the better it looks. And the easier it is to scale down an image. So if you want to make it small later on, it'll look good. So with that said, let's go ahead and look at the different Adobe Photoshop features by looking at a sample header, as you can see here. Adobe Photoshop has many different dialog windows, which allows you to edit different images and things like that. So right now, right here, this is the toolbar that we'll be using a lot. And as the time comes, I'll be bringing different dialog boxes into the window. Actually, right now I can see all the dialog boxes, but to make it small enough so that the area here you can see, I'm going to make it so I can pull it in here. I would say for the purpose of using Adobe Photoshop to create mini sites, most of the time you would use just simply this toolbar dialog box. You would use this box for actions, for example. If you wanted to create a DVD box, you would click on step 1 and click on that, and we'll show you a little bit more in detail later on. Another thing you'll use is a dialog box of layers. As you come to know, layers are very important, and layers make life so much easier. In fact, if you're looking at this header right here, for example, this is made up of many layers. For example, the background is probably made up of at least 5 to 6 different layers, and then we have this picture here that's made up of probably 1-2 layers, and then we have the text here, and what it makes it look nice, like this reflection here, it's a different layer. So think of a layer that it can overlap on different areas. And in the future videos, I'll actually show you how to work with layers. Let me just give you a quick run through of the toolbar. The tools that you're most likely going to use the most is this rectangular marquee tool. It allows you to highlight different areas of the picture. So let's say, for example, that you want to crop out this area here. You could do that, and you can use the cropping tool, or you can just say crop, image crop. But we'll undo that just for the sake of showing you. And you can have other things like elliptical, single row, single column as a marquee tool. Most of the time I just use this. And you have the move tool, so you can move things around. You have this tool that allows you to take pieces of, let's say I just want this little man here. I could use this to get this little guy out, for example, and then crop it. And then I could use something like this tool to try to make it white around him. So as you can see here, this little tool here, it's called the magic wand tool. It allows you to select, areas and then change them around, as you can see that I'm doing right now. And it's a tool that I use a lot, especially if I get something like a royalty-free image and I want to make everything around a person white so that I can grab that person and then put them in front of a background that looks nice. And I'll show you what I mean later on. And the history dialog box is what I like to use. For example, if I pull it over, I can see the history tab. And let's say, oops, I made a mistake. I want to go back to scratch. I don't want to click undo every single time. Just click on this, and there you go. Or if I made a mistake in the past, I can move a little bit here, move back a little bit here and there. So with that said, let's move ahead. Some of these tools you really don't need to use, like the slice tool. And for this purpose, for the sake of mini sites. And if you don't know what a tool is, if you put your mouse over it, you can highlight it and see what it is. So most of the time, for the sake of this video series, we're going to use this tool, this tool, this tool, this one, this one, this one, erase tool, maybe paint bucket. We're going to probably use the gradient tool, as you can see. If you click on it and you drag your mouse over, you can see other tools under that tool. So it's the same concept, but a different type of tool. We can use a smudge tool, text tool, of course, add text, line tools, and other things like that. We can change the color, the foreground and the background, simply by clicking that area, and we can choose a color, or let's say we already know the color, and we can enter that in here and press OK. Or if you only want to stick with web-based colors, you could click here. Because for the internet, there's a lot of times there's only web-based colors. So Photoshop can get really, really deep into different types of colors. So besides the history and actions, you'll most likely use the layers, as I mentioned earlier. And of course, to keep it simple, we'll be using things up here. We'll be using the image feature here. We can rotate the canvas. You can crop it. You can increase or decrease the image size. You can duplicate the layers. And you can also do filters, which are different little tricks and different little things you can do to that specific image. So with that said, you at least have a good idea of Adobe Photoshop and its features that we'll be using to create mini sites. Let's move ahead to the next video where we talk about royalty-free images, why it's important, and how you can find them.